Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Barely Bookish podcast. Today, we are continuing on with the Aeneid with Jade from About a Book podcast.
Hello.
I feel like reading these, it was almost like reading like e-news, like some sort of gossip column a little bit. Like that's what I felt like I was reading.
How come? How so?
I don't know, but like the way, okay, I think it's because it's like all of it's in third person. And then they're like really hyping up in the next book, like her despair. And so they're like, she was just so distraught, and or like also the way he
it's like
goes
tabloidy
through,
yeah.
And like the way they go through his story is like there's no real like emotion or feeling in his story. He just like hits a lot of bullet points. He's like, yeah, we saw Cyclopses. Did you hear Odysseus left one of his men behind? How dare he? Like that's why I felt like tabloid-esque.
Yeah, I totally get that. It was so we're doing books 3 and 4 today. 3 was like a proper whirlwind. Like it definitely felt like they're trying to just hit point. And I'm glad we're only doing it in 2 chapter points, because if we're doing any more books in an episode, I think it'd be too chaotic. Because not much detail in book 3, but a lot does happen travel wise, geographically. And then you got all the emotion. You kind of have more of the personal story in the 4th book.
I will say I thought these would take a lot less time to get through because they're like sonnet-esque, like poetry like layout. So I was like, it's not gonna take me that long. Each chapter takes me about 2 hours to read, to be honest.
Yeah, it's not a light read at all. I would love if, like, obviously, you have to be careful that you keep the integrity of the books and you don't completely just like make a complete remix of them. But it'd be interesting to see like a kid's version of the book or something where it's just like this the story without all of the poetics and all the difficult bits to read. I think I'd enjoy reading a version of a book like that. Maybe retelling either.
There's a lot of me that wants to start doing retellings, like because I like writing and I'm chaotic and I kind of just want to do really weird retellings right now. But I'm like, what if I just did an Odyssey retelling from like, I don't even know, maybe Odysseus' point of view, but like everyone outside of him realizes how big of a trash bag he is.
I'm loving like retellings at the moment. That's like the thing I think I've read like 3 in a row or something like that, like, which obviously isn't that much, but like I'm making it through all the big ones that are out at the moment. So that's definitely what I love, because I really want to write a book and everything, right? And I'm really passionate about mythology, but I'm not that creative in like starting something from scratch. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I think it'd be if I could find inspiration from these older stories and kind of like add a different spin on them. I mean, ask Madeline Miller. I mean, I'm sure it's definitely not any easier than thinking of something completely from scratch, but be fun little writing exercise, did a little short story or something of it. So who knows? Maybe my boyfriend's really into writing, and he's doing like a short story of like the Cyclops from like the Cyclops' point of view. So I'm looking forward to reading that.
Yes.
And he's like, yo, I'm only eating humans because that's like all I have to eat. You left me in this maze like with nothing. Leave me alone.
That's fair. I mean, also like to a Cyclops' point of view, we probably look like animals,
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, true.
Especially if you don't speak the same language as the Cyclops. Think about it. Like, we don't know if a cat's meow mean different things.
Exactly.
So it's like, if you just heard a bunch of like garble, how would you assume that it's intelligent speech?
True.
This is obviously apparently a pro Cyclops podcast. I don't know.
It is pro monsters, justice for all the monsters in these books. But speaking of, retellings and remixes, this book is definitely just Virgil's fan fiction of the Odyssey.
Absolutely.
And you can see that the strongest parallels are in this chapter, in chapter 3.
Yes.
And as you're saying, you wanted to write a book maybe from Odysseus' point of view, but like everyone can see like what an asshole he is. that was definitely the audience at the time Virgil was writing this, because Virgil's goal in this basically was to make Aeneas a more pious version of Odysseus. And you even see him in this book going to the same places and acting differently. Like, for example, you know, Odysseus got caught out by the Cyclops, but in this book they managed just like sail right past him, you know. And in this book, I feel like one of the main themes would be like omens, you know, and making sacrifices to the gods and things like that. And I think that's really kind of, he's trying to show off how pious and how religious, well, you know, how great this guy is compared to Odysseus, you know, like, oh, this guy doesn't forget to thank the gods, this guy listens to, you know, the prophecies and things like that. So that's basically the main theme of this. So let's jump right into it, I guess.
I don't know what your political campaigns look like, but like in campaign season on the TV, it's basically both candidates roasting each other via $1,000, $1 million commercials. And this is what it felt like to me.
I mean, it's like in Ireland, it's kind of just like, you know, two old people just kind of like muttering and things like that. We like watch the American stuff and like laugh because it's a lot more like a show, you know.
Yeah,
it's a lot more dramatic. And in Ireland it's just kind of like a boring like back and forth debate, but in America you have all the spectacle.
It's really bad. Like, there's the amount of money that people spend campaigning is ridiculous. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen any of our commercials during campaign season, but they'll be like, you want to vote for Senator Joe Schmo? Well, he eats babies on Wednesdays. Would you ever vote for someone that eats babies? And then it'll have like some random woman and she'll be like, I am a firm believer that we should not be eating babies any day of the week. And then like, and then it's like, ad supported by the Ron Swanson Foundation, blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay,
no, ours are not like that at all.
They're so ridiculous.
We just get like flyers in our door. That's basically it. Yeah.
And then they'll be like, when he was 25, he voted to make sure that, I don't know, like, everyone always had to wear white on Tuesdays, and I don't like my rights being suppressed. So if you want to be able to not only wear white on Tuesday, then make sure you don't vote for this guy, blah blah blah. And you're like, okay. And it's like, also it's like they'll bring up like things from like when they were like 18, and they're like, when he was 18 he drank. That's illegal. Next question.
Even though it was like 30 years ago.
I know, you're like, okay. And you like look into it and it's like, he didn't really say that. They just were able to fund it because it's a commercial and nobody fact checks anything. And you're just like, cool. This is what Virgil's doing.
Yeah, pretty much. This book is kind of like Odysseus. Well, to add more confusion, if you weren't already confused reading this book, dear listeners, Odysseus is referred to in this book as Ulysses. Much like James Joyce's Ulysses. It was inspired by have you ever read Ulysses?
Not yet.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't either, but Ulysses is basically an Irish version of the Odyssey. So he's walking around Dublin and he encounters all these people that kind of like mirror the monsters in the Odyssey.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, it's called Ulysses after Odysseus. But anyway, yeah, this book is basically, it's like a diss track for Odysseus, you know.
Excellent.
Virgil saying like, I'm so much better, blah 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 blah. Yeah.
But let's get into it. So book 3 is Sea Wanderings and Strange Meetings. So they basically are like, just to set the scene, a town called Ilium is burned down, I guess. And then they're like, anyways, that doesn't matter, moving on. And you're like,
oh, we should preface this as well. He's telling Dido the story of what happened before he like met her.
Yeah, but like, also I don't even know. I'm like, is this a Moor telling this story, or is this Aeneas? Like, I don't even know who's speaking. I don't know when they switch back, and I don't think anybody knows. Like, there's this huge plot hole, and they're just like, all right, whatever, don't look at that.
Yeah, I don't know either.
So he then also, it's like, okay, so they set sail in the summer, and then it's like his whole like storyline. He's like, I'm gonna name the people Aeneid. not. But anyways, he's gonna name the people
I have
after
no
himself.
idea.
Yeah. He's like, isn't that a great idea? And I'm like, yeah, like everybody else does. Like everybody names people after themselves, but then
Yeah.
there's narcissist.
Yeah.
And then Aeneas hears his friend's ghost talking, and he's like, you need to leave Troy. And he's basically like listing all these signs. He's like, the gods came down and shook the ship to tell me to leave Troy. And my friends rose from the grave to tell me to leave. And you're like, okay, were you the only one witnessing this though? Like, yeah. He's like, everybody wants me to leave. The gods like literally screamed, shook the earth, knocked everyone down. We're like, you need to go and find Rome. And he's like, see, everybody wants me to do this. And I'm like, no one has ever gotten this many signs from the gods ever. And he's just like really rubbing it in that he's supposed to do this.
Imagine how terrifying it'd be if the gods like communicated that way in modern life.
Oh my. It's like, would you grow accustomed to it though?
Maybe.
But like, imagine if it's like for small things that are like leading to a butterfly effect, where like one day you're like, I'm actually gonna just wear Converse to work, and then like the gods shake the roof and they're like, no, you will wear your non-slip shoes to work today, and you're like, okay, sure.
I feel like if the gods were that clear at communicating, I would totally like abuse it, and I wouldn't be incapable of making any decisions for myself, and I would just want every decision to be validated by them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Free will would be out the window.
Yeah, completely.
Like, imagine how tired of it Hera would get. Like, because everyone would be like consulting her every time someone wants to like start dating someone. They'll be like, is this the guy I'm gonna marry? And she's like, you just have to date him and learn from these lessons, dude. Like, just fine. You're not gonna marry him, but you have to date him. And they'd be like, no, simply not gonna do that.
Like, that's what I think is really interesting about like Greek mythology than like Christianity. Like everybody has these problems. Like it must be a lot of stress for like one god to sort them all out. But I feel like, if we had a Greek mythology system, you could be like, okay, so Juno is going to be your mentor. If you have problems, ask her. Oh, you're a sailor. Okay, Poseidon's got you. And then you have like a little mentor group, and you meet up and you're like, what's going on? And she's like, yeah, what you did, you need to cop on,
Yeah. It feels like a monotheistic religion, honestly, to me feels like if you were going to the CEO to ask them like if you should put a period in this sentence or not at work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that seems like a lot. And imagine if everyone did that.
Yeah.
Instead of like having a multi-level thing. Like I guess in Christianity, or I don't know if it's just Catholicism, but like Catholicism has saints. So
yeah, I was gonna say, so that makes kind of sense. You're like, oh, I know God's busy, Saint Anthony, but can you help me find, my phone?
Yeah. So I feel like that's where Christianity was, or Catholicism at least, because I actually have no idea if saints are in Christianity or if it's just Catholicism, but like at least in that way, like Catholicism was like, we're gonna actually use this. This seems like a great idea.
Yeah.
Because like let's let some of the saints filter out some of these questions, and then they have a never-ending supply, because if someone dies a martyr, they're like, sainthood exactly. For you.
Exactly.
So the gods just having to keep having kids.
It's quite interesting because I don't know if I think it's not the case in many of the saints, but for example, one of the patron saints of Ireland is Saint Bridget. And sorry, I'm just nerding out right now because it's folklore, which is my job. But Saint Bridget comes from the Celtic goddess Bridget, and she was like the daughter of the Dagda, who's like the Irish version of Zeus. And she was the patron saint of the springtime. And then when Christianity arrives, she just became like Saint Bridget,
Yeah.
And like a lot of stories about the Saint Bridget, like they sound so mythological. Like there's the main story of Saint Bridget is that she has this big massive cloak, and she has this normal cloak, and she's like to the king like, hey, can I have some land to build my monastery? And he's like, you can have however much land covers your cloak. So then she like whips out her cloak and it becomes like miles long, and she gets like all this like land,
Yes.
like, monastery. And I'm like, that sounds so mythological. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Anyway, that was a big tangent.
No, I honestly heard about Saint Bridget before being a goddess previously, but I didn't know many stories about her because I haven't like really looked into her. But like,
Oh, there's so
love
many.
that.
There's so many. Like, she was beautiful and she really didn't want a husband because she wanted to commit herself to God. So she prayed every night to become ugly, and God made her ugly. And then her father was like, okay, you're ugly, like you don't have to get married, you can be like whatever, you know, a nun. And there's another, and then it's interesting because the goddess Bridget, she was said to have one beautiful side of her face and one ugly side of her face, so that she could like trick men, which is interesting.
I want to know more about the goddess before she became the saint, to be honest.
Like someone was like to the Saint Bridget or to the goddess, not clear, like, damn, like you're fine, like, you know, and this religious thing is just a phase, like you're gonna get married, like you should marry me. Then she turns around, she's like, I'll never marry a man, and she like plucks out her eyeball in front of him.
You can't see it, but my jaw's on the floor, listeners. Oh, how metal. Like,
she's
honestly,
awesome.
if okay, when I had to go through, you know, that whole like that thing where you get another name because you're a Catholic, I forget what that's called. And my little metal self was like Joan of Arc. So
cool.
Had I known about Bridget previous to that moment, that's what I would have gone for. Are you insane? I know.
I feel like I need to do an episode on Irish mythology because it's just awesome. Like, I'm so surprised Disney hasn't like capitalized on it. I'm really hoping they don't, because like they'd make it crap. But yeah, it's awesome.
If you just want a reactor to those episodes, just to being like, oh my God, are you serious? I will totally be on them, but it's just going to be me going, holy crap, what? It's going to be a lot of that.
If there was some book or something, if there's some book about it, we could like do it and you could like react to it, like American person reacts to Irish folklore or something. That'd be awesome.
If you find one, let me know. If you find stories and you want to do that ever, let me know, because I would totally do that.
There's a few, so have a look.
Sounds good. So there's like a ton of hype for this invasion. They're just, you know, basically they're like, everyone wants this to happen, it's totally not gonna fail. And then he like makes it very clear, he's like, yeah, I totally didn't dream this, but then I also just wake up out of bed, but it's not a dream, don't worry. And I'm like, okay, sure, I'm sure it's not a dream.
Yeah, people are like, oh, I got like a prophecy in my dream about this grand journey. It's like, yo, could have just been like a dream. Like, why does it have to be like, I feel like I do believe in like dream symbolism.
I do
sometimes, but then sometimes I feel like it's so vague.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But sometimes I have it and I'm like, whoa, that's so true. But other times I'm like, I don't know.
I feel like, to me, dreams are the point in our lives that we're most susceptible to influence. Yeah. And so I'm like a big proponent, like when people say that their relatives who've passed visit them in dreams, I'm a big proponent of that actually happening. You know what I mean?
Oh, me too. Because like, isn't it like scientists aren't like completely sure like why we have to sleep for so long and like other animals don't?
Yeah, I've heard stuff about that. I've never looked into it myself.
Yeah, me neither. But yeah, there's definitely some mystical elements to dreams, but I feel like sometimes, like not in real life really, but in these stories, you know, he could just be trying to justify his own
I also think people are liars. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's very easy to be like, yeah, after the fact that you've already done this, or like, yeah, you know, Athena came down to me and said, this is exactly how it's going to go. And look, that's exactly how it went. Don't mind that I didn't tell anyone before I did it, how it was going to go, but you know.
Or I've mentioned this. Sorry, I continue.
No, you're fine. That was it.
I've mentioned this on my podcast many times, but it really annoys me when authors say they got an idea for a book in their dream. I'm like, how lucky are you? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
literally.
I'm like, I wish that were me.
My dreams are so chaotic. Like, I had this reoccurring nightmare. Okay. for a long time when I was a kid, where I watched. So basically what happened is I had watched like World War Z and Spider-Man too close together. So I had this, and the Maze Runner. I was reading the Maze Runner too. Like a lot of things going together. But I had this reoccurring dream that I was stranded on a cruise ship. The zombie apocalypse broke out, but the zombies were like Doc Ock with like those mechanical arms.
Oh no.
Yeah. And I'm stuck on
That's
a cruise ship
terrifying.
trying to fight them. And that was like a reoccurring dream I had for enough that it made like a lasting impression.
Spooky. I wonder
Yeah.
what that means.
Am I supposed to write that into a book? Is that like the next horror novel I'm gonna write? Like I've never written horror really, but I guess we'll start with like Doc Ock zombies. I don't know. Yeah, that just like lives rent free in my brain. Maybe it's like gonna be like Doc Ock vampires though, because I feel like zombies is hard to write into a book.
Yeah. I feel like vampires are more interesting.
Yeah.
Just to me personally.
Or maybe it'll be like human evolution Doc Ock situation.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't know. We'll spitball this later.
You heard it here first, folks.
So after like a horrible storm, they ended up on an island about a woman named Cleland and her sister, who is a harpy. But it also sounds like she's also a harpy. So that's cool.
Harpies are terrifying. Half bird, half woman.
Yeah, but like they were literally just minding their business on their own island. You know, they could have terrorized everyone and started a war. But you know what they were doing? Vibing on their own island.
That's true. That's true. I wonder if there's a backstory to that. Maybe it's kind of like Cersei, where they're like banished to the island. Who knows?
God. Here's another one, another retelling right for the sake. I was just thinking about these harpies too. Like as you said that, I was like, oh my God, a harpy retelling would be so cool.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This is why I can't write, because like this is just what it's like when you want to write a book. It's like you're just like, what if another idea right here? Firm for the
taking. Like sometimes I get like really cool concepts, but I'm like, how could I actually stretch that out? You know what I mean? Like I was like, I have this amazing idea, but I can't take any further.
I know. I just like keep like info dumping. Like I was never a planner when I was a kid, because I used to write books a little bit when I was a child, and I would just like free form write. But now I like info dump everything I've ever thought about this novel into one Word document. And then I'm like, all right, piece it together, red line tape things to make this work.
Can you give us a hint? Is it fantasy? Is it myth retelling? What are you going for in it?
So this first one that I have right now that I want to work on is fantasy. And it's one that I like started as a kid.
Oh, and so cool.
Now I'm like trying to take it further, and I haven't exactly figured it out, because I want it to be like, I don't want it to be like medieval fantasy, except there is royalty in it. I want it to be more of like if fantasy became modern, if that makes sense. Like I want there to be a semblance of technology in this.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I'm not really sure what it's gonna look like yet.
Have you heard of that show on Amazon? It's called something Gods. And it's like the old Greek gods fighting with like new gods of like technology.
Oh, American Gods?
Yeah.
Yeah, I read the book.
Oh, it's a book as well, is it?
Yeah, it's by Neil Gaiman. It's really good.
Oh, is it? No way. I just someone told me it was a TV series on Amazon, but that's even cooler. So is that kind of the type of feel you'd be going for, like bringing technology into it a little bit?
It's more like, yeah, kind of, but like I don't want it to resemble Earth, if that makes sense. Like more, if I can make it work, I want it to be more like Star Wars, you know, where they have like a monarchy, but like they're not like behind the times. Like things still give like that very Renaissance vibe, but it's like they still have like blasters and lightsabers, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to go for. We'll see. Like I'm still in the info dumping stage. Like I started writing a little bit, but I definitely need to go back and like plan out this novel in my head a little bit, because like I'm trying to figure out where to start. And I kind of realized that like that's the hardest part for me. So what I think I'm going to start doing is just writing a bunch of scenes out and then just like meshing them and then going back and writing the first chapter after I've written all these scenes. Because like I know things I want to hit, but like I don't know where to start yet.
Yeah, sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. I don't know.
When it's done, send me an arc. I've never gotten an arc before.
You'll get your first arc from me. It's gonna probably be a bit, but like my goal in my head is to like I basically by April I've given myself kind of this deadline where if I can't like do freelance or I'm not making any money from the podcast, like I'm gonna have to get like a full-time job. So my deadline is April to start this book, at least like get through a draft of it. So we'll see how that goes, because that means like 3 months like I have.
And would you like to go through a publisher or self-publish?
I'm indifferent. I don't really know. Like I know self-publish is a lot more legwork.
There's like some people that are really passionate about self-publishing.
Yeah.
Then some people that are like, you need to do it properly, like you need to go through a publisher.
I might pitch a publisher and then, you know, self-publish maybe. Like I haven't decided yet. I'm not really strong about it either way. So we'll kind of see where that goes. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of work. I'm kind of nervous, but it's fine. Like I know the first draft's going to be trash and I just need to get over myself, but that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, imposter syndrome, and like, oh my, it's gonna be so bad that like puts you off. Like if you don't think you can make it perfect, you want to start it all.
Yeah,
that's like me and my podcast a lot. Yeah, like I'm like, oh my god, like, you know, oh, it's not gonna be the exact way I want it. So I'm just like, if I never do it, I never have to, you know, it never has to not be perfect.
Literally. That's how I am right now. And like I finally just cleared like 30 average listeners every time I upload an episode. But it's like people will be posting and they'll be like, yeah, I have like freaking like 200 listeners and I've only been publishing for a week. And I'm like, kill me.
I know. Like I've seen so many people that have had their podcast like way shorter than me and they're like have crazy listens. And I'm like,
I know.
But
like it's fine. I'm fine. And it's like my podcast is so niche too. But I'm like, I promise it's not stuffy.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in a strange niche because it's like bookstagram, but it's also like history as well. Like I'm kind of like in the middle of the two like niches.
Yeah.
But we were saying that before we started recording about how like these days it's so hard to like market yourself and like I feel like having a project like a podcast, I feel like 70% of it is like advertising yourself.
Oh yeah, for sure. Can I help you?
Like the amount of time I take like producing an episode, the amount of time I take like making posts and trying to engage with people is like crazy.
I know, it's absolutely ridiculous.
But speaking of engagement, this chapter was really engaging.
Very good. So basically what happens with these harpies is they keep trying to have like this feast and then the harpies come down and steal it. And then they're like
angry seagulls, you know?
Yeah. Which I like that imagery a lot. I think that's hilarious. But like, you know, when you go to the beach, you don't just like leave all your food out. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you don't just like open all the containers that you're not currently eating out of and you're like, hello, please, seagulls.
Well, still though, I mean, like near where I live, we have a place called Hoth and it's like by the sea. And the other day my mom got like a crepe and she was walking to the car with it and a seagull just swooped in and took it out of her hand. Like they're vicious, especially like Dublin seagulls are like a whole thing of their own. They're very notorious. So
I got smacked in the face by a seagull.
I can only imagine what woman-sized seagulls would be like.
Oh yeah, I got smacked in the face by a seagull as a child because I was eating a Subway sandwich on the beach.
That's what you get for eating Subway.
I mean, yeah.
There's my Subway sponsorship gone, but
oh no. Please no, Subway, turn the podcast back on. But yeah, they like dove down for my sandwich and I was like mid-bite and I had like a smack of a seagull. And then like I got like a bunch of seagulls all came down trying to eat my sandwich. So I like was so scared because I was like 7. I just
Yeah,
threw
it's
the sandwich
terrifying.
up in the air and I ran for my life. So there you go. Don't feed the seagulls, people. Uh, so then they start like drawing swords at these harpies, and like the harpies just are unbothered and unscathed, and I think that's hilarious to me.
Yeah, again, much like a Dublin seagull.
But then like the thing that's wild to me is like then like basically Cleoland was like watching this whole thing happen. She's mad because she's like, this is literally the harpies' home. Like, you're stealing our food and stealing our cattle, and you don't expect them to like want it. Like,
Exactly.
which fair. Like, they were literally just unbothered on their own island, and the men did not ask at all. But then like they basically just like are like, she prophesizes that they're going to be unable to create Rome until a famine is swept through the country. And then they just leave it at that. Like, no other real encounter happens.
Yeah. They say they're not gonna find Rome until there's terrible famine and they're forced to eat their platters, which is like that they I mean, even now that's confusing. I'm sure like back in the original languages written, there's many interpretations. So they're probably
Mhm.
like, what the heck does that mean?
Well,
So that won't be revealed until a bit later on.
mm,
But that's the first prophecy we get in this book.
yeah. I remember when we did like a Greek mythology day in school. They had, it's like a bread type thing that were used as plates apparently in ancient Greece. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I was thinking of. I don't know if that's true or
Oh, I'll
not.
have to see.
Yeah. They eat the people that are handing them the food. Who knows? But it's wild to me that it's just like, this is so far below the Odyssey in my brain, because like in the Odyssey we would have explored this a little bit more. He just like, so that
Yeah.
happened, moving on.
Yeah, I feel like Homer, yeah, he went into more detail because me reading these stories, most interesting part for me is like the encounters with the different monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I feel like maybe Virgil, like maybe he didn't go into as much detail with like some of the scenes. I mean, I don't know why he didn't explain the harpies more, but maybe with the Cyclops and things, he was like, oh, they already know all about that.
Yeah,
But
but I don't know, it's just like,
I think
he
he's more.
just
I think this book he was more concerned with the political side of
mm-hmm.
things, whereas the Odyssey was very much kind of like there obviously was a bit of politics in it, but it was mostly just an adventure tale. Whereas this
Yeah.
actually has an agenda. Like he's getting paid to talk about the greatness of Rome, so that's his main concern.
Mm-hmm. And then they also go on to be like, yeah, we pray to the gods, and then like also had like this competition and wrestled in oil. And I was like, cool, glad you got to do that, my guy. I don't know.
They're just bros being bros.
Yeah. Uh, then we go on to talk about Pyrrhus's wife. For some reason, like,
Oh
this is where the
yeah,
timeline gets a little screwy. Okay.
yeah. He was like a Trojan prince, and
Mm-hmm.
then this is kind of like a little check-in, And now we find out that he's married. Whose wife was it? I mean,
Oh,
whose wife
Pyrrhus's
married?
wife was
The wife
uh
of somebody.
wait. So Pyrrhus was the Achilles' son. So
Yeah.
Achilles' son's wife was forced to marry a Greek man or a Trojan man, someone. She was like a princess, and then she like became a slave because Pyrrhus was killed. But like, Pyrrhus was a trash bag anyways, if you read the Song of Achilles. So
Yeah.
it's fine.
I don't know why when I was reading this, I never copped on that that was his son. Maybe because I listened to Song of Achilles. So when I was
Mm.
reading it, I like read it differently than I heard it. But that's
I
cool.
I forgot while until like right now, because when I wrote Pyrrhus I was thinking of Pram, so I thought this was,
That's what I thought I thought that's what I thought it was or something. Yeah.
well, because then he talks about Pram later, so it's like he's really just throwing out a lot of P names all at once, and I'm like, I
Mm.
really don't know who we're talking about.
I thought that Achilles' son died during the war, no?
He dies
Or was
after the
that just
war. He kills
okay?
Pram, and
Yeah.
then Priam's he also kills Priam's son.
Yeah,
and then someone kills Pyrrhus in revenge for that situation.
Mm-hmm.
So then Pyrrhus's wife is left.
I got confused with like the retellings and the myths, like which is the one that happened, because I feel like he dies kind of early on. I feel like I got the impression in Song of Achilles that he died when he was like a kid almost.
Me too. So you're not alone there.
That actually is another theme in this book, the father-son relationships. That's really important. It was important in Greek society, honestly, because you see it as well in the Odyssey with Telemachus and Odysseus. So they rock up to this island, and then he's like, yeah, I'm doing great, I'm thriving after the war, I'm setting up my own little mini place right here, and it's going to be fantastic, and I've got a new wife. Things are looking up. And then that kind of gives Aeneas like some hope, you know.
And the thing too is like I could not figure out where they were though, because like they're basically like, yeah, I'm checking in, this all happened, you know. And he's also like telling this too, because this is all the story he's giving to Dido, you know. And so like he's just like, yeah, all this is happening. Anyways, moving on from that story. I'm like, where were you while you were having this conversation? Like it basically felt like he wanted to just like brag to Dido about his life. So he's like, yeah, I totally talked to this queen for a little bit.
Big deal. I'm pretty big deal.
Pretty big deal. Then he sees a seer, and the seer's like, so first always pray to Juno. And I'm like, cool, sounds good, we'll totally make that happen. And then he like goes through all the other things that are going to happen, but I again don't write that down because I don't want spoilers. So then he moves on from that. He's like, yes, then I saw Seer, that was pretty cool. Then he talks about going to see Scylla and the Abyss, and he's like, yeah, we just like passed by it, we didn't go there, but it was right over there, so you know, better than
that's Odysseus. Like, oh, you know, it's like a little like cameo, like, oh yeah, you guys see, this is just as legitimate as the Odyssey.
But like the Odyssey, they like literally lost like 12 people there.
And I'm much like, smarter than Odysseus, I just go straight past them instead of like
going through it. But it's like you literally you're supposed to have to go through it. And he's like, I totally just didn't though.
Yeah, I know. So I don't know. Plot hole.
Lots of plot holes in this, I'm gonna be honest.
I think he's like, oh, I don't know, I can't, like, oh, if he was with the Scylla, like, how's he gonna figure a way out of it? I'm like, I can't think of my own way that's not gonna be copying the Odyssey, so I'm just gonna leave it out.
It's like, oh, he also lost 6 men. Anyways.
I would have enjoyed it a lot more if there was more detail.
Have you read Circe yet?
Really finished it 3/4 of the way through.
Okay, then I'm not gonna say anything. Anybody that's read Circe knows my thoughts right here.
On what? Oh, on Aeneas.
No, on a moment, and we just covered. So just finish Circe, and then you'll know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Excellent. Text me when you finish.
I'll text you. Yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So then he's like finds this guy from Odysseus's company, and it's like, yeah, I got stranded on the Cyclops Island, so don't go on there because they're Cyclops. And I'm like, that's really lucky. It's really lucky that Odysseus lost one single guy, and he survived somehow. That wasn't mentioned in the Odyssey. But okay, sure. Which, like, then it's like they're trying to dog on Odysseus again because they're like, look, he didn't even notice that he left one guy behind. And you're like, okay, sure.
Yeah. He's been through a lot. Okay, he managed to save most of his men.
Yeah.
Stop trying to, you know, no Odysseus slander on this podcast. We said it before, we're the only ones allowed to hate on Odysseus. I'm not going to tolerate any other slander. Thank you very much.
Listen, if you're a modern person, you're allowed to hate on Odysseus. But if you're Virgil, no. Because you just you're literally just like copying the homework and didn't change that much.
Yeah.
So
like you can't write a fan fiction of something and then just like give out about what inspired it, you know. It just,
you're like, I'm gonna write Pride and Prejudice in the 1800s, and you're like, it was already set in the 1800s, and they're like, but this is fan fiction, and you're like, okay, are you gonna change some like major plot line, you know, to make it your own? And they're like, no. And you're like, okay, I don't really know how this is gonna work for you, bud. So as soon as they saw like the Cyclops though cresting this hill, they're like, all right, dog, let's get out of here. And they take this guy and move right along. Like they never really get off the boat in any of these islands. Like they're like this. The funny thing is like, he's like, I'm gonna probably cry a lot while I tell this tale, and the entire time he's telling this tale is just
it's
like
so factual.
Yeah,
it's like what you said. It's like reading like a news bulletin or something, you know.
Yeah, and it's like you didn't really lose anybody on this journey. Like you didn't go through anything traumatic. You were just kind of like sailing for a long time.
Yeah.
So then he's like, and that's the end of my story. Thank you.
I want to see some like more mythology TikToks, you know. I want to see Odysseus reacting to Aeneas and everything.
We can make that happen. We could film that TikTok.
We could. I'm trying to think of a good sound.
We'll think about this later. But it's going to be like one of us has to play Odysseus, one has to play
Aeneas.
I kept wanting to say the Aeneid, and I was like, I can't do it. And I have this now. You got the wheels a turning. We'll talk about this later. That'll be our hype for this episode. All right, so then we are on to book 4, The Passion of the Queen. And I just feel so bad for Dido right now. Like I truly do.
I was trying not to give it away in the last episode we recorded because I thought that what happens to her happens at the end of that book. And she's just the most tragic figure. Like, yeah, she's just a complete pawn of the gods. Like, she's so wholesome. She's such a girl boss. Her future's so bright. She's here on this island, you know, Carthage, or I don't know if it's an island, but she's in Carthage and she's setting up this new town. Like, she's just lost her husband in a really sad way. You know, she meets this guy Aeneas, and he's so great and he's promising her things, and she's trying to fall for him. And he's telling her this amazing story about all his travels, and oh my gosh, he's becoming even more attractive because he's just so well traveled. And yeah, let's continue on.
Yeah. And like, so basically she hears this whole story and she's like, oh my god, like that's everything you went through. And then like, you know, the feast ends, she goes and talks to her sister, and she's like, yo, I kind of am into this dude, like I might want to get remarried. And her sister's like, yeah, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, no, I don't like Anna, right? I think that's what her sister's name is. But anyway, I'm gonna call her that. And she's like, I'm really falling for this guy, but like, you know, I still love my husband, and I feel like that would be betraying like my marriage vows to like get with him. And then her sister is like one of those, you know, we all have those people that you might say something crazy like, oh my god, I'm just gonna like quit my job and like move away, and they're like, yes queen, like you can do it, like, you know, don't think of the consequences. That's basically her. She's like, oh, I could follow this guy, and she's like, yeah, I mean, why not, you know, why not?
Yeah,
like, so what if you know, the gods might not be happy with it, like make a sacrifice, like, you know, you're independent. You don't need to listen to the gods. It's fine, just make a sacrifice and it'll be all good. And this could be a really powerful union, you know. The Trojan union with the Carthage, you know, it could be the start of an amazing future. Don't worry about what anybody thinks, even if it's the gods. You should just go for it.
But yeah, no, I think the sister is like, she just seems like that person that like no matter what you say, they're gonna be like, yeah, do it, whatever you want, dear, do it. And you're like, this is actually like a terrible idea. Like sometimes if I tell people I want, like, listen, I love ladies with shaved heads, I think that's great for you, but like sometimes I need someone to tell me, you should probably think about this for 30 seconds. Like if I ever come to someone and I'm like, I want to get bangs, tell me to go home and to just have a glass of beer and think about my actions, because I can tell you right now, if I cut bangs on myself, I will hate myself.
Yeah, exactly. But here Anna is just like, go queen. Yes, I'll support you whatever you do. And then it has dire consequences.
Yeah, because it's like she met this guy and she's known him for like a week, barely, like a couple days. Like, just think about it for a little bit before you announce to your entire country, who they like love the fact that they have like a single queen. Yeah, maybe think about it before you announce it to everybody. Like, maybe check in with him and see how he's feeling and his plans, you know, because like he didn't sail all this way just to come find you.
Yeah.
You know? And the sister's like, nah, don't worry about any of that. Just like marry him, whatever.
Yeah, just make a sacrifice to the gods and then marry him.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah.
It's like, are we though? So, oh, and then like the sister's like, did you want to be alone forever or something? Too, like she like dogs on her sister a little bit, like,
come on, like you're not gonna find a man just like, you know, sitting at home. You need to go out there, girl. You need to ask him, like, you need to make the moves. Like, come on, your husband's been dead for like what, a few months, like you need to get back out there.
Like, little toxic, but also like sometimes you need to hear that, but like this was not one of those moments.
In this case, no,
definitely not. Terrible idea. So then we flash to the gods trying to figure out this marriage, and they're like, yeah, like let's just get them married, whatever, because, you know, Juno set up this entire thing because she wanted her to fall for him.
Juno's the worst. Yeah, so Juno basically, she doesn't want Aeneas to go on and find her own, so she uses her, you know, her godly authority to make Dido fall in love with him. And then she kind of, we'll continue on.
My favorite thing though is that like in his story, he was like, yeah, my wife died, and then like said I should go find someone because I'm gonna find a better wife out there. And then she's like, oh my God, like that was a sign, that's me. You know? And it's like, that's why he dropped that hint in there. And then, you know, we just kind of have to move on from that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're deciding to get married. And I was like, I really felt like it kind of came out of the woodwork. Like they talked about maybe getting married, and then like now the gods are in on it and they're just like planning a wedding. And I'm like, okay, like did anything lead up to this? Did both of you even agree to this?
Yeah, it's really giving me it's giving me Megan Fox, Machine Gun Kelly vibes. You know what I mean? Dido's like, we're meant to be, it's written in the stars. I've loved him every lifetime, and the gods are in favor, and the gods are like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Yeah, and then like seconds, like I don't even think they even got married. I can't tell. Like I couldn't tell if they actually got married. So
this is, it's really confusing in the text, but I remember just from school because it was explained to me more in layman's terms. Because like reading this book, there's so much that you like miss, and so much that's like distorted, and you can't even tell what's happening. But basically, Juno like hosts kind of like a fake wedding, if you get me. Like she lights the candles, she does the mood lighting, she like sends them into a cave so that like they have sex. All right. So that's like you know, officiating the marriage, the marriage, but they haven't actually got married. They've just done like it's like having a wedding party but not actually making vows. Okay. And this is to kind of like more so trick Odysseus. Trick Aeneas that they're married, and then he won't move on. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so it's like a fake wedding to deceive Aeneas, so that he's like feels like he has to stay there. Yeah, but then like on this wedding day, someone's like, "Yeah, should we like prepare the boats?" And he's like, "Prepare the boats. We gotta get out of here." Because the other gods are like. Yeah, so Juno is like hosting this fake wedding behind the other gods' backs, and then the other gods are like, no, he has to go on and like do his journey. So then they get the boats ready, and he goes off in the boat, and then Dido is like, what the heck? Yeah. And then she's so devastated that she lights this big morning fire, big like pyre, burns all of his stuff. It's like when you break up with somebody, and you do a little fire, you throw in all the stuff they gave you, fuck them, blah blah blah, blah. She does that, but then at the end she throws herself into the fire and she burns alive.
Yeah, and she like stabs herself on his sword and everything. I was like,
yeah.
Yo,
and this
what?
is like this sounds like dramatic or whatever, but like it's not, because you have to remember Juno made her fall in love with him, so she's like under an enchantment, like she's literally like burning love for him. Do you know what I mean? Like it's really, really passionate. It's not like she's being dramatic. It's like the spell is still like on her when he goes away, so then she she wasn't in her right mind and she did it, and it's just it's like justice for Dido. Like this is the saddest thing that's happened to characters that I can like remember, that it's just like apart from Finnick in what happened to his wife and everything, and just his storyline still gets me, but anyway,
it's just so messed up, because it's like she was not an active player at all, and then it's like we get like one chapter about her, and then it's like, all right, moving on, and it's like, you want me to feel like for a guy that literally like slept with a woman, promised her marriage, and then sailed away, like now I really don't care about Rome.
I mean, it obviously would have been really sad if it was just like a random girl in Carthage, but the fact that it was like this really like important queen that was like doing this groundbreaking thing, like she was one of the the first kind of like women to be having her own little place. It was still getting set up, loved by everyone, perfect life, and then he just comes and the gods just
destroy it.
Use it as a pawn. It's just really sad.
Yeah.
I feel like there's many like gods and stuff where even like Medea, she's like always used as like a symbol of like female
empowerment.
Yeah, and it's like, I know Dido wasn't a god or anything, but like she was like such a girl boss,
I know. And it's like the worst part too is like she was not supposed to die at that point, so like Isis had to come down to and like take her soul out of her body, because her body was like fighting it, because she's supposed to like live for like
wasn't her time,
more time. And it's like that to me hurt too, because it's like it's just because she was a pawn of the gods that she died.
I mean that's what I meant to say. Like when people think about the gods being ruthless, they say stuff like Medusa, that's what I meant, Medusa. But people don't really mention like how mean the gods were to Dido. And he had that image of Iris, like the god of the rainbow, the kind of messenger goddess coming down and like taking her soul out of her body because it was before her time. Like that's
really rough.
I mean, not to like put you in a unmotivated mood, but that was like, this is the best book in the Aeneid for me. Like this is the most memorable. This is the most memorable one. So, like, to be honest, like I'm not reading ahead or anything, but I can't remember anything that happens after this.
That's fair. But that's all we have today, everybody. On that note,
that's such a sad note.
I know it's really rough, but like that's all we read. So don't.
I feel like we need to say something motivational now, because
here's my motivational thing.
Be a girl boss.
Be a girl boss. And don't listen
to that friend that
don't listen to your friend or your sister's advice. It's like, totally give up everything for a man. Don't do that. There you go. Live your girl boss life.
Don't be so quick to drop your dreams for a man.
And if you're non-binary, also, I don't know, just boss life. Or like encompass the soul of girl boss moment, okay? But just boss life, okay?
I feel like girl boss, like I was saying that to my boyfriend today, I feel like girl boss isn't even, it's not a girl who's a boss. Like a girl boss is a very particular energy. I feel like guys can emulate too, because I don't know about you, but I get those ads on my YouTube and stuff, like I used to be like you working a job, but now I just play ads on YouTube all day and I get money for it for free. And it's like that's girl boss energy right there.
There's, so I feel like, to me it's like dude is gender neutral, girl boss can be gender neutral,
Yeah,
but
so I
girl
feel the
boss
same
is
about
a
dude as well.
specific way of bossing. Okay.
Yeah.
Just encompass that in your own life. That's your assignment. That's your take-home assignment. Here you go. Welcome to school. Girl boss your way. But thank you all so much for listening to this episode. Next week we'll be back with even more Aeneid. I'm probably gonna have even more hot takes because that's what you come to this podcast for. Jade,
And
sorry.
if you guys are sad after this episode, go onto YouTube and listen to, I think it's called I Will Go Down with This Ship, and it's by an artist called Dido. And I feel like that's what Dido was thinking about when this all went down. So
yeah, I'm gonna have to listen to that song. I was thinking about it the other day too.
I'm gonna send it to you right after we finish recording.
Sounds good to me. All right, but you all have a great rest of your day. Jade, where can all the people of the internet find you?
You can find my podcast on Spotify, iTunes, all the regular places by typing in About a Book as one word. And then you can find me on Instagram at aboutabook.podcast.
Excellent. And we will catch you all next week right here. Same place, same time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Barely Bookish podcast. If you want to find me, I am at Barely Bookish on literally everything. Also, please consider joining the Patreon. You can get some exclusive access to some lovely bonus content. You get early access to every episode and a bunch of other great perks. So please consider joining that, and you can hang out on the Discord with me. But that's all the little announcements I have. I hope you guys are having a great week, and we will be continuing on with the Aeneid once again next week. Our logo was designed by my little sibling Sarah. Our theme song is by Raphael Crux, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye!